Basically, this is a passage in Shatpat Brahmana. This is Brihadaranyakam. Now you will wonder that Brihadaranyakam, what has it to do with geography? It is supposed to be a book, what they call the Upanishad, And generally, and of course, you will remember always, Upanishads in 600 BC, remove it from your mind. They are all part and parcel of the same tradition coming from the same Vedic epoch. Okay? And I will not repeat it often, but then you will keep it in mind. It is 3940 BCE to 2860 BCE, which I will just make a clear statement. It is pre-Harappan. Whatever people call pre-Harappan. We are not even talking about contemporary Harappan, they are pre-Harappan, but not too far removed from the Harappans. So now this is very interesting. We have a description here. In this Upanishad Prakarana, we have a question being asked by Bhujju Lahyayani to Yajnavalkya in the Shastrartha which is going on in the Sabha of Janaka Vaideha. But most probably the Shastrartha is happening in a Bahudakshini Yajna which is actually happening in Kurukshetra. That is not very important for us. But then what is being discussed there? Bhujju Lahyayani asked, do you know where the Parikshita Janmeja, Parikshit's son, Janmeja and his brothers, where did they go? The answer is, they went where the Ashwamedha Yajis go. Again he asked, where do the Ashwamedha Yajis go? Now these are very important to establish the geography. I am not telling a story actually. What I am doing is I am sieving facts out of fiction. There is a story going on, but it has a verifiable content. Physical evidence is there, lying out for us. And what is it? To describe where they have gone, he says, Dvatrimshatam vai devarathanyani ayam lokaha. Which simply means, this loka, this is a pronoun. And which is being used, he says, this loka is 32 devarathanya. Now what is this 32 devarathanya? Like if somebody asks, how big is Delhi? You are going to say, it is 20 kilometers by 20 kilometers or something like this. So what do we need to know to understand what actually, how big would be Delhi? We understand that we need to know the unit. If they have used kilometer, or they have used mile, or they have used krosha, we need to know that unit. Then only we will have an idea of what they are talking about. Now here he has used 32 devarathanya. Now 30 years I have been studying this text. And I have been wondering as to why he says 32? Why not 30? Why not 28? So 32 is a significant word. And then later on he says, twice of that is the earth around it. Now this is a very interesting thing. This loka is 32 devarathanya and twice around it is earth and twice around it is sea. Now this generally is taken as a fabulous account like the Puranas. Then even they describe Jambudvipa, then they talk about Saptadvipa Vasundhara, then they talk of, Kshira Samudra, they talk of Dadi Samudra. So is this something fabulous like that, or is it a fact? Now that was a challenge. Now here we had Shankaracharya. Of course Shankaracharya is there. The redoubtable Shankaracharya is commenting upon this. What he says there is Devarathanyam. Now this is what we want to know. We have lost the tradition of this meaning. The meaning tradition is lost. Word is coming through tradition. Now we have to establish that lost tradition. Now it is a very crucial word, because if we understand that word, we know what geography they are talking about. Whether they are talking about Central Asia or they are talking about something else, it's a cakewalk once you understand this sentence. Now what is it? He says Deva Aditya. Devarathanyam he is describing, he says Deva is Aditya, tasya rathasya gatya anya yavat parichidyate desha parimanam tavat devarathanyam. That way appears to be an interesting definition. What he says is, the passage of sun, the distance that the sun moves in a day is devarathanyam. Now anybody who has studied little of science is now naturally going to question, because the sun doesn't move, it's an apparent motion, and it depends upon what? It depends upon the height of the observer. If you do not understand, what to take? But then that is where the ritualistic understanding comes in aid. We know that in all the Vedic texts, when we say Angula, whose Angul is it? Is it elephants? No, it is the Yajamana's Angula. We say Prakrama, the foot or the step. Whose? The Yajamana's or Advar used. So the same paribhasha we used, and then we got a definition, a nice, beautiful scientific definition of a unit, which would fit into any 20th century definition of, let's say, meter or kilometer, whatever you wanted to define. And what is it? It's a beautiful, elegant definition. It is the curvature of earth which gives us Devarathanyam. For a height of a human observer, whatever he sees the eastern horizon to the western horizon, of course, that's another story as to how does one go find about it. How does a Vedic find about it? Well, that's a different story. But then this definition gives us a very fair measure. Devarathanyam is 9.6 kilometers. And then not only the story doesn't end here. When we mapped this Devarathanyam onto some known topologies, what we get? 32 Devarathanyam. Before that, I am just giving you I am jumping ahead. What actually you see is Lothal. Do you see Lothal here? That is in one of the Janapadas of Veda. I will show later. Then we have Dholavira, we have Mohenjo-daro, we have Harappa, and we have Kalibanga, Banari, Rakhi. Very interesting. Okay. Now all these sites which we see, and what we see is when we map this Dvatrimshatam Devarathanyam, we get a area which is nothing but the Kurukshetra. It is the dimension of Kurukshetra, the sacred land of Vedics. It is the land where they throng to do their yagas, their rituals. Whether you are a Videha king or whether you are a Gandhara king, you would be coming for your rituals to the bank of Saraswati in Kurukshetra. It's a sacred land, common to all. Dharmakshetre, Kurukshetre. It is Prajapatehe Uttarvediyat Kurukshetra. Now we have this Kurukshetram vai Devanam, Devejanam, Sarvesham Bhutanam, Brahma Sadanam. So like that, this is a ubiquitous place. Nobody can deny this. And that Kurukshetra is 300 kilometers in its dimension, interestingly. And then, twice of that is earth. So we add 600 kilometers to that and we map. From Kurukshetra, if you take center, Thanesar as center, 900 kilometers is almost Gandhara. That is the easternmost, the northernmost Janapada. And then, if you go east, towards Videha, it is again 900 kilometers. If you go west, when you reach Dholavira, again it is 900 kilometers. You are ending the land known to them as Aryavara. So that is the end of earth for them. And the story again doesn't end here. It has a very further, the sentence is Dvistava Samudra Pariyati. I was very surprised myself when I saw if I double this 600, I get 1200 kilometers. If I go from this Dholavira port, 1200 kilometers, where do I go? Surprisingly, I go to Oman or Muscat. That is precisely the place which is very well known in later Harappan sea trade. It's an interesting thing. He is describing something, Aakho dekha hal. He is not talking about anything fabulous. Okay, that is what I wanted to show through a passage in Shatpad Brahmana, and then we will relate this, and I will show you the geography of Janapadas through the internal evidence of Veda. People generally believe whenever somebody talks of Janapadas, they say, oh, you are talking about Bauddha Kala. Where is Janapada in Veda? Then I say, what are these all sentences doing? let us see the sentences along with the Kurukshetra, of course, is the center. And then we have Kuru and Panchala. In between Ganga and Yamuna, we have Kurus, and across Ganga, you have Panchalas. You can see the sentences quoted below, and this is just a what we call Ding Matram. Okay. And then we have Surunjay to the north and Matsya to the south. Then we have northern Janapadas, Gandhar, Kekai, Madra, and we have eastern Janapadas, Kosal, Videha, Kashi. And then we have a very interesting sentence here. We can see the Bhalladi Gatha there, quoted in the so-called Bodha and Dharma Sutra. People say it is a late Vedic text, but nothing doing. It is actually part and parcel of the same Vedic ritualistic manual. What it says is, you can read it there. It is Gatva Punastomena Ejata Sarva Prusthayava. It is actually in some portion, some prescription of a ritual. If you go somewhere, what is it? Sindhu Sauvira Anartha. Sindhu Sauvira, Saurashtra, Anartha, Avanti, Vidarbha, Magadha, Anga. What are they? These are the Sankirana Yonaya. These are the boundary Janapadas of Aryavarta. Very interesting. And then there is a further sentence saying, Arattan. Arattan, Karaskaran, Pundran, Sauviran, Bangan, Kalingan, Gatva, Punastomena Yajeta. You need to do Prayaschitta if you go to Aratta. What is this Aratta? You will again wonder. This Aratta does not find any mention in Indian literature. But it is the southwest Iran. It is that portion which has been talked by Sumerian epics in 3000 BC. That is Aratta. And it is talked by these Vedic texts. As a Janapada, you should not go. If you go there, you do penance. And then we are talking about Karaskara, most probably Kasgar. Of course. Now, if we map those things that we saw in this thing, very interesting. You see the boundary Janapadas? They are really on the boundary of this Aryavarta. And all the outside Janapadas, they are really outside this boundary. Now, this is what is internal evidence of the Vedas.